In this video tutorial, I'm going to get started with the MySQL database. If you're an absolute beginner, this MySQL database will help you learn the SQL. So I've also got a lot of SQL interview questions and answers. Once you go through this tutorial, you set up the database, you got it running in your machine, and then you can practice your SQL CRUD operations like create, read, update, delete. So SQL is a must for any Java or any other developer because you need to store your data in a database. And also this SQL database, MySQL database, will pave the way for the future tutorials in JDBC. JDBC is how you use Java to connect to a database. So you can, from your Java application, you can write to a database, read from the database, and so on. So we'll be using this MySQL database that we set up. And also, if you're going to write any RESTful web service, you need to talk to the database through JDBC or via JPA and then Hibernate and then to MySQL database. So this will set things up for future tutorials. So you can also learn JSQL and also for RESTful web service via JPA and Hibernate and then to a MySQL database. So firstly, you need to go and download the MySQL database from this folder. So there will be a link at the bottom. So everything I'm going to discuss here is going to be a link that takes you through step by step how to install and get started with the MySQL database, how to run, how to create a database, how to create a table, and so on. There are a number of different ways you can install. So here I'm going to use it for Windows 10. Basically, it is a good thing to download the zip file. So you don't want to really download the Microsoft installer and install it and put it into your program files and so on. But what I prefer is to keep it separate. So already I have a C tools folder. So I'm going to download the zip file. So mostly if you're on Windows after 2008, you'll be using a 64-bit Windows. So you need to download this Windows x86, 64-bit zip archive. You download it and it will download it into your downloads folder. Then I have copied it over to my C tools folder. I have already installed and set it up. For this purpose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show, if you have already set it up, how to delete everything and start from scratch. So I already got this MySQL 5.7.18 Win64 zip, and I have unzipped it into this folder and I have already created. If you go and look into the bin, so if I go in MySQL Win64 data, I've already set up a database called Learn Java DB, and there's a table called account and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start everything from scratch. So I'm going to delete this completely. My whole MySQL installation is gone now. So I'm going to go into MySQL 571 zip and then I'm going to right click on it, say extract all. So it's going to extract it into this folder. So it's saying C tools MySQL 5718 Win64. I'm going to say yes. You can also change the name to MySQL if you don't want to keep typing in these versions and Windows 64 or 34-bit, whatever it says, but it's up to you. So I'm going to leave it as it is and I'm going to extract it here. So it's all extracted now. So we got a My64, then again the same folder. Under bin is where everything is. There are a couple of ways. So you can go to a DOS command prompt and run everything from that folder. So which is C tools MySQL version blah bin, and then you can run different commands. So usually you will be running the MySQL daemon exe, that is a server, but I prefer to set the path. So either we can go to Windows environment properties variables and set the path, or the way we set up Eclipse, Java home, JRE home, all those things, I'm also going to set MySQL home. So I write this set MySQL home, provide the whole path, C tools, MySQL version, and then I'm going to add it to the path and mysql home and bin. So by doing this, I will be able to run these commands from any folder. I don't have to be in this mysql home bin folder. So I go to my DOS command prompt into C script. This is where I got my environment set up. This is where I set my Java home, my Maven home, JRE home, and so on. So I'm going to set up my MySQL home as well. So I'm going to run this environment setup, and then you can see now MySQL would have been set up. So I'm going to clear now this. And now let's follow through step by step from here onwards. So I have run this, I've already run. So I also need two. So I'll create two instances. One is for the server, and also I'll need another one. So I'll open another DOS prompt for the client. I'll explain that in a minute. I'll make it a little bit. So the bigger one is for the client. That's where we'll be typing most of our SQL commands. And the big one, so I'm going to do cd c scripts, and then I'm going to run the environment again. So this is going to be my server. So the smaller DOS window is going to be my server, and the bigger one is going to be my client. So the first step is to initialize the database. So you do that by running this command. So mysqld, which is a daemon, mysql daemon -- initialize console. And the important thing to do in this step is it will be creating a password. When it initializes the whole MySQL, it will be giving you a password. You need to note down that password, and then we need to log in as a root. We need to use that password, and we need to change the password. So I'll run this command. So it's going to go through, and then the only thing I'm going to be interested in is the password. Here you go. A temporary password is generated for root at localhost. So I'm running at localhost, and this is the root user. So root user is more like an administrative user. You can do a lot of administrative functions on the MySQL server. Later on we'll be creating another user to be used in the applications. So I'm going to note down this password. So right click on it, edit mark. I'm going to note down this password, copy and paste it onto a notepad. So that's a user. So that step is done. Now I should be able to start the server. So before I start the server, I'll explain you the MySQL database is a client server database. So basically in this diagram here, we need to now start the server next step. So what's going to happen is this is a server. So I'm going to start the server with MySQL daemon d -- console. By default, the server starts on port number 3306. You can change that through the configuration, but for the time being, we will leave it as it is. So that's why I'm going to start from the what console. Now the console is where I'm going to start the client. Then I'm going to start that with MySQL user -u. Initially, I'm going to run it with root, and I log in with the root, and then I'm going to create a new user called user123, and then to do all my SQL queries and everything, I'll be using user123 as a user, but initially I need to go in as a root user. Then you will be making your SQL commands from the command line. They'll be going over the TCP IP. You'll be creating a database here, and under the database you'll be creating tables. Then you can insert records with an insert command from the client into the server, and then you can delete, you can select star, so you can perform all kind of CRUD operations. So now the next step is to start the server on port number thing. To start the server, I'm going to do mysqld console. So I go in here. So this is the smaller one. So I'm going to run this. So now the server is started. So that's all you got to do with the server, and only thing you need to note down is the port 3306 is where the server has started. So what basically we have done is we have done this bit here, and the server is just started on port number 3306. Now I'll go to the other console, DOS console, and then I'll be running the client. So client is where now we'll be doing most of the work. So I was unsure if I have already run the environment, so let me run the environment cmd, make sure okay it's there. Now I'm going to go and paste the code. So I'm going to do mysql -u is for root user, -p is for the password, and I do enter, and it's asking for the password. I have already saved the password as part of the initialization step. I'm going to copy this password and I'm going to paste it here. It's all good now. I'm into the my mysql prompt. So now to remember that password every time is quite cumbersome, so we're going to go and change that password to something that we can remember and keep using. And also make a note that every command you do ends with either semicolon or G. Until then you can do multi-line commands. So remember the semicolon or -G, /G. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and change the password for the root user at the local host. So I'm going to run this command. So all these command you will find it in the link underneath, so you can copy and paste. So I'm going to run this command, alter user root at localhost identified by password 123. So this is going to be my new password. So I'm replacing that password that I noted down with this new password 123 and press enter. It says the query is okay and the password has changed. Now from now onwards, if I'm going to use a root user, I can use the password 123. Now as I mentioned before, the root user has got all sorts of privilege from a database administration point of view. So it's always good when you're using in an application, you're going to create a new database and you're going to run CRUD operations, you create your own user. So in this case, I'm going to create a new user called user123 on localhost, and I'm going to call the password pwd123. So to keep it different from the root user, so I'm going to run this create user. So user123 is my new user and identified by password pwd123. Enter. That has succeeded as well. So the next step, I'm going to grant permissions for that particular user to do all kind of operations. The CRUD operation, DDLs, stands for data definition language, where you create a table and so on, and data manipulation language, where you select and you do all the CRUD operations. So DDL is mainly you can do grant permissions, different kind of permissions to a database, tables, and so on. So I'm going to paste this, the grant, and I have granted permissions now. Now I'm going to create a new database. Let's call this database the Learn Java DB. So that's going to be this step here. I'm going to create a new database called Learn Java DB, and under that Learn Java DB I can create 10, 20, 100, even 200 tables that I want to under that. So in this tutorial I'm going to just create one table called account under that Learn Java DB. So now what I'm going to do is run this command. So what it does is, if the database already exists, it doesn't do anything, but if a database doesn't exist, it's going to create a new database. So I'm going into the client again and paste it. So it says create database. If not exists, it's called Learn Java DB. Yes, database has been created. So now if I want to see what the database is, I see show database and end with semicolon. I think it's called show databases. So now it's showing all the databases. Looks like these databases would have come with the MySQL DB itself, but the database that we created is the Learn Java DB. So show databases will create Learn Java DB. Now I'm going to use this database. So I call use Learn Java DB. This is basically like changing the context to that database. So now I have changed to the database. Now if I create a new table, it will be going inside this database because I'm using this Learn Java DB. So to create a new database, what I have to do is run this create command. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in my client, paste. So create table, and table is called account, and this account is going to be created inside the Learn Java DB because I have changed it to that particular database. Then I'm going to create this account is going to have a column called ID, which is a varchar, is more like a string, varchar 30 characters long, and it is going to have an account name, which is varchar 50, and a balance, which is going to be of type float. So I'm going to select this and say enter. Now the table is created. Now if I want to see what it is, and I can say show, I think it's called account. Oops. So what is it? I need to show tables. Okay. So what I need to do is say show tables. I just want to see, and the account table has been created. Okay, so now if I want to see what's the schema of this, I can say describe account. Now it describes it. It got a field called ID, which is of type varchar 30. It is a nullable column. Key, if you want to define a primary key, you can define primary key. So if you go to MySQL interview questions and answers, you will see primary keys and some examples. You can practice those examples. The default value is null, and then we got another field called name, varchar 50, balance, float. Now we will go and see how to insert some records into this account table. I'm going to create 3 records into it, so I'm going to do paste. Now it has inserted 3 records. Now how do I know it has inserted? I can do select star from account. Here we go. We got 3 rows. One is with ID of 123. Account name is John R. Balance is $255. Another one is 456 Peter Smith, and balance is 1234. 789 Joanne R. and 675. So our insert has gone in, and now we can select as well. Now if you want to quit out of here, you just type QIT quit. And also if I want to back up this database and give to somebody else to import it into their stuff, or if just in case anything gets corrupted or whatever, there is a utility called mysql dump. So I can run this command as shown here. I have already backed it up, and it'll ask you for my password. My password for the user123 is pwd123, and it backs it up to this Learn Java DB SQL. And then also to restore, I can run this command and it will restore my database from this SQL file back into my database. So now if I go into my ctools folder, MySQL DB, where data is, you can see now Learn Java DB is the database that we created, and inside that you will see account data. So account table has been created. So that's a quick tutorial. And now in order to go back, and if I want to stop the server, is as simple as doing a control C. So now the server is still running. So in future, when we're going to do all the Java tutorials for JDBC tutorials, Hibernate tutorials, what we'll be doing is we have this table already set up. We'll be starting the server, so the server will start listening, and there will be a way to, using JDBC or Hibernate configuration or whatever, we can connect from our Java layer into this database, and we'll be doing some read write operations. Even when we do RESTful web services, we'll come to the web layer. From the web layer, it will be going to the service layer, and service layer will be going to the data access object layer, and data access object layer will be using either Hibernate or JDBC to go to the database and fetch the data. So when you work in any non-trivial application, you always need data, and MySQL database is a good open source database to get started with. And basically, if you are a self-taught Java developer, you are planning to learn all these skills, this is an absolute must. And I'll see in some future tutorials where how you will be using JDBC, Java Database Connectivity, and then we'll be moving to Hibernate, and then we'll be using Hibernate with JPA, and then we'll be doing full end-to-end from a RESTful web service, either via Spring Boot or directly via Spring. We'll be using a RESTful web service that goes all the way up to the MySQL database, to this account table, and we'll be fetching the data. So now to kill this server, all I have to do is just press Ctrl+C. Now the server has stopped. So that's all for this tutorial on MySQL database.